乡。
ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene.
Good morning, this is Gowri.
And of course, you are with us in our ASEAN Daily, where we bring you news and also commentaries from Southeast Asia. So the first news of today, just a bit of, I would say, breaking news about the orang asli in Peninsula Malaysia, which is situated in Mersing, Johor. Did you know there are a group of orang asli called Jakun living there?
Yeah, and what's really sad is they were all just evicted from their homes, and most of them are just putting up by the street at the moment in makeshift tents by the roadside after their homes were torn down by some enforcement officers.
This is really such a terrible situation in a way that I think the orang asli, especially in Peninsula Malaysia, they are being marginalized to the extreme extent. I mean, some of the names are being used in a derogative term. For example, Jakun is just an ethnic, I would say, an ethnic group within the orang asli subgroup. But a lot of us don't really understand about, some of the names are just ethnic names.
And also, it seems that they were just told to remove all their belongings and all their things and move into the jungle because, or otherwise, they would just be pushed out of the houses. And the official even threatened to shoot at their chickens and dogs. And one of the villager who was actually also one of the guys who got evicted from his house said that they have lived there for 6 years and claimed the right to the land and forest produce. So they have been having all these ongoing daily activities in the forest and also claiming the right to the land. But just after 6 years, all of a sudden, these few officials show up and say that you cannot live here anymore and you guys have to get out, and I don't care where you stay, which is why they have to actually live in makeshift tents by the roadside.
And some of them say that why are they being treated like animals? And if I'm not mistaken, one of the member of parliament in Johor is Lim Kit Siang. I wonder what his thoughts on this.
Yeah, and well, I mean, since it just happened, we'll probably wait and see what how he's going to react and what he's going to say to the authorities. And it seems that one of the excuse used by the official was that that the forest is actually running out and is being depleted, so there's nothing for you guys to do here anymore, so why don't you move to a different place with a different forest? But that's kind of condescending, isn't it?
It's condescending and it sounds fishy. When they say that forest has depleted, are they saying that they are making it into a reserve area? And if it's a reserve area, does the orang asli have any rights towards any reserve forest to stay in? Because forest is closely linked to their heritage and their home. On the other hand, from the orang asli issue, another breaking news, which is about refugee, but this is not the Rohingya refugee. It's refugee coming from Australia. A lot of people might not realize, but each year Australia receives a lot of refugees, and they have this policy of stop the boat, where instead of putting the refugee safely and integrate them into the larger Australian society, they would usually place them in islands nearby the Pacific area. Nearby Australia. And now they had a deal with Cambodia where they would transfer those refugees in those islands directly to Cambodia.
And it seems that they are starting that with 4 refugees who are expected to land in Cambodia on Thursday morning, which is this morning. And this was said by a government official. And this is also part of a controversial resettlement deal that was signed between Australia and Cambodia as well last year. And this most of the refugees are also being held somewhere in Darwin. And among the 4 refugees, actually one of them is a Rohingya, and 3 others are Iranians. And they were, of course, like you said, denied access to Australia, and they were detained at a very small island. And they are set to arrive on our very own airline, Malaysian Airlines flight. And they are being transferred under this deal, and they will be heading back to Cambodia, where their documentations will be processed again to see how they can fit in.
I wonder what's the price of a human life when it comes to the deal itself. Apparently, it was signed in last September, and the irony, it was signed in a champagne ceremony by Interior Minister Sir Kang and Australia. Then Immigration Minister Scott Morrison. And guess how much the deal was worth? 40 million Australian dollar. So, or 32 million US dollar. In Malaysian ringgit would probably be 100 million or 150 million ringgit. Such an expensive deal
Yeah.
or resettlement.
Exactly. And talking about 4 refugees here, and they also announced that they're going to allocate a further 15.5 million for the resettlement of the 4, which is also being facilitated by the International Organization for Migration.
So there you go. You have resettlement from a first world country to a third world country, which probably have never been seen before. On the other hand, let's move on to Washington. Young ASEAN leaders are welcome in Washington. There's this one program called the YSEALI, the Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative, by the US government, and they are 75 exceptional young leaders who have participated in the US-sponsored YSEALI program were welcome at the White House on Monday.
Yeah, and these 75 fellows were actually drawn from an exceptional pool of applicants from all the 10 ASEAN countries. And I think the purpose of doing this is for them to build academic and professional knowledge, and also to establish further networks with the people around there, and to see how they can come up with maybe new, fresh ideas that they can bring back to the region and share it and implement it here.
The funny thing is, when you say new, fresh ideas, the only thing that came to my mind when you spoke about the YSEALI scholars, I would say, are the questions that were the questions that they asked during Barack Obama's visit to Malaysia last year. I doubt that they have fresh new ideas, and I doubt that they come from exceptional background, but it's just me, I guess, because of what is being seen during the town hall visit of President Barack Obama.
And well, it says that according to the program, they will try to focus more on innovative forums and strengthening constructive relationships between the United States and ASEAN nations. But it seems that when it comes to ASEAN programs as well, it's mostly from outside of ASEAN, like the US or Japan or the EU. And we don't really have much of an initiative here in our own region itself.
I think number one would be funding, and number two, for these countries that are funding these young kids, they do have I would say but they do have interest in this region, and the best way to influence their interest is to influence the young minds. Of course, with the US would be the YSEALI program, but each of the countries that you mentioned, even EU, have their own program, and these are the best way to shape the young minds. a lot of the programs are really good in a way that they somehow add knowledge to young people in Southeast Asia. But at the same time, I guess we need to take with a grain of salt in a way they would somehow influence this region to be unfavorable towards the country that is having interest in Southeast Asia.
Mm-hmm. But will having this program actually increase or make ASEAN more attractive to the US, or how exactly can this 75 people benefit from this program, and when they come back, what exactly are they going to contribute to each of the countries?
I don't know. You have to ask them. But at the same time, when you really look into this, has it really changed the perception of young people towards the US? And I think yes and no. The general perception towards the US has not been that favorable, but at the same time, they do look up to the US especially in terms of pop culture. So in a way, it does influence the young people's mind, but not in a way that the government would aspire it to be. Still a long way to go. I think in this region, China has a more favorable liking by the people in this region, partly because it's the closest. Not just China, but I think East Asia in general, like Japan and Korea as well. Also due to the pop culture and the geographical proximity of these countries towards this region. At the same time, a lot of people might not realize, but unfortunately, Hong Kong is being left out of the ASEAN boom.
And that's something that never really crossed my mind, and it's interesting when I saw this on why Hong Kong is being left out on ASEAN. When we talk about ASEAN and all the other countries surrounding it, we always focus a lot on Japan, on Korea, especially on China, and I think Hong Kong rarely ever comes up when we talk about ASEAN and how other countries can benefit from it.
Mm-hmm. You're right about it. Like, seldom people actually talk about Hong Kong. I mean, the last thing that I remember about Hong Kong was its drama series.
Oh well, that's pretty sad for Hong Kong.
And that was like during the early 2090s. It was quite a big deal. One of their biggest exports, actually.
And probably one of the reasons is because they are being overshadowed by China. I think because they had the protests as well, trying to be an autonomous region from China, but they are still kind of under the shadow, and they have not been able to break out of that. So as long as they are still under China, there's nothing much that they can venture outside of Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm. So apparently that Hong Kong's economic fate has been closely tied to that of mainland China since the 1970s. Leveraging on the lower production costs in China, and the economic benefited tremendously from a relocation of production to the mainland, but the strategy soon would backfire because now China is looking at ASEAN instead of Hong Kong. So that means we
it's
have
sad news for
an
Hong
envy
Kong.
sister up there.
And yeah, one of the key reasons, according to this news, is the reason Hong Kong is sort of being sidelined is their manufacturing sector that is not really as up to par as ASEAN, or maybe we're just not in the same line in terms of our economic direction.
Could be. It could be. I think when it comes to China, it has already put its focus on Southeast Asia as the market that it wants to grip on. Especially manufacturing has no longer become such a big player within the Chinese economy. They want to move on to something more R&D. That's why you see a lot of innovative companies coming out of China. But China aside, what it is looking at is Southeast Asia could be the next manufacturing hub for the world. So that's why it's eyeing Indonesia, Vietnam and all that. But at the same time, just talking about China, do you think China is a threat to ASEAN's unity?
I think it's a very tricky question. As a whole, China is sort of giving us some problems, especially in terms of the South China Sea. But at the same time, they will also be providing us with a lot of money, if I'm not mistaken, for all our future infrastructure projects. So, threat to unity, maybe partly. But I think we also have a lot to gain from China at the same time.
So, in fact, the biggest challenge to ASEAN's unity and centrality is not China, but the unevenness of economic development within countries within Southeast Asia. Despite strong economic growth, the region is still facing many challenges that continue to hinder their ability to narrow the development gap. So the biggest challenge with ASEAN is ASEAN itself. It needs to create a standardization in a way where each country can grow not exactly on the same level, but at least on par with each other, rather than you have like economies that are doing really well and economies that are still struggling, for example Laos and all that.
I think it's interesting that you brought up the development gap, because so long as we still have that funding gap, we're gonna have to turn to some external source, and in this case it's going to be China. So somehow rather it goes back to our big brother, where we are dependent on China, especially in terms of external funding for our projects that we have in this region. And I think some countries are, of course, more dependent on China, especially maybe like Cambodia, that's really close up there. But maybe we should draw a line that we don't become so dependent on China that they can that they actually can end up controlling us or calling the shots or giving us orders, because we just cannot survive without a country like China in ASEAN.
That's why we still need programs like YCLI.
Well, that works out well for us.
In a way, I think ASEAN should play the middle person to have a balance of power, to ensure that we are not too aligned with anyone, but we are still aligned with anyone. Does that make sense?
A little bit.
Anyway, we'll take one short break. When we return, we will discuss on the business and economic side of Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hi, this is Arlene.
Hi, this is Gowri.
And of course, you are with us again on our ASEAN Daily, where we bring you news and commentaries on Southeast Asia. So this time, regarding on economic and business news, do you know that Google is investing $300 million to expand Singapore data center?
$300 million. That is a lot of money for some internet project. I sound like some idiot who doesn't understand her technology. But anyway, yes, Google is investing more than $300 million actually, to expand its data center in Singapore, like you just mentioned, which is one of the only two such sites in Asia that's operated by the company.
The other one is Taiwan.
The other one is Taiwan, that's right.
So it seems like Google is definitely expanding its outreach towards Southeast Asia, or I guess to be more specific, towards the Asia Pacific. And the penetration rate refers to the percentage of people connected to the internet, and from the percentage of nearly 400,000 first-time internet users in, I guess here means would be in Singapore. Went online last year. So it shows that people within this region are quite on the go and online.
Yeah, I think in Southeast Asia has one of the largest internet penetration as well. Of course, looking at our population of about 600 million people, and of course many of them are also going online using their smartphones, which is why they are trying to get more and more data. You know, when you go to like a mobile phone provider store, and then if they give you 3 GB or 4 GB and you keep wanting more, even though you end up paying more because you just want to have internet that is fast and effective and reliable, because everything from emails to creating emails, everything is done with your mobile phone these days.
And all this require data, and especially with the availability of high access speed like 100 Mbps. I don't know what does that stand for.
I think it's really fast.
and I think what is the benefit for Singapore is there will be more and more commitment by the Singaporean government, and as well as by Google, to expand the connectivity of Singaporeans, and especially people from this region as well. More users going online means more demand for data capacity, hence more expansion to keep up with the demand.
And I think with more data capacity makes it easier for people to stay connected, to run their business, maybe just using their mobile phones as well, and that gives Singapore an edge that other countries here probably don't have access to.
Guess which country do not have access to? No, just kidding. But countries that is currently facing a lot of hardship, that is especially pressures from the international community, would be Myanmar right now. As we all know that Myanmar was supposedly a country that would be transiting towards democracy, towards economic prosperity, but US is being pressured to put economic sanction towards Myanmar.
I think this is one of those situations where we feel like there's nothing that can be done anymore. We have to bring in the US, and they are the ones who can actually turn this whole situation around. And like you were saying, they were supposed to have an election in November where they are going for the whole transition from the military to a more democratic system. But at the rate that things are going with Myanmar right now, I don't know if that's even possible.
Yesterday I was at the ASEAN Pacific Roundtable, and when they mentioned about the issue regarding on the Rohingya crisis, and I think one of the key takeaway of the Rohingya issue is pretty clear now globally that Myanmar is not transiting towards democracy. It's more transiting towards a post-dictatorial regime. So in a way, their democracy is not inclusive enough towards everyone. And I strongly agree with the Rohingya Vision TV CEO Muhammad Noor that America does need to put greater sanction towards Myanmar.
And he said that at the moment, they were doing whatever they wanted because nobody is confronting them. And he's right, as much as people all over the world are actually criticizing and pressuring Myanmar, nobody is actually taking any concrete action. I mean, you can complain and write articles and whatnot, but if no country actually steps up and do something about it, especially Malaysia, but that's another story. So he's right in when he said that it's time for America, because they probably have the most influence. So for them to come up and to have these economic sanctions on Myanmar, it'll probably give Myanmar the wake-up call that they need.
And besides America, he's also calling for Malaysia to speak out and tell Myanmar that the Rohingya are your people too, and you must keep up with them. And I think what he's referring is they Myanmar share the same religion as majority population of Malaysian, which is Islam. And besides that, he also emphasized I guess his frustration on the business community there, that the focus is mainly on business and GDP, but what is stopping them from persecuting the Rohingya? There's a lot of oil and gas resources which everyone is after, so much so that they do not want to solve the problem of the persecution towards the Rohingya, or he called it the floating people.
And that's right, in pursuit of all these economic benefits, because Myanmar is rich in gas and petrol resources like you just mentioned, and they don't want to jeopardize that relationship they have in Myanmar, because it could backfire and affect the economy in their country as well. But you just have to go beyond that, because this is human rights issue that we're talking about. I mean, calling them the floating people because they were on the boat for so long and nobody went to their rescue. This is actually a very serious thing, and I think we have said this before, but Malaysia should be ashamed that we are not leading this whole initiative to actually pressure Myanmar to do something. Well, we will probably have a mini summit like our Prime Minister said, but is the mini summit going to be a diplomatic one, or is it time to really tell Myanmar to do something about the Rohingyas?
Especially when it affects the business of human trafficking, the booming of human trafficking business. At the same time, I think religion plays a part here. I think there's a religious commitment that countries with majority Muslim population need to commit even greater. But at the same time, talking about Islam, the Islamic Development Bank, it seems to be more interested to explore a tie-up with, guess what? AIIB, ASEAN Infrastructure Investment Bank.
That's your favorite bank, isn't it? Your face always lights up when you talk about AIIB.
I guess so.
So yes, you're right. The Islamic Development Bank is exploring to see if they can somehow form a partnership with AIIB, and they are trying to spur the use of sukuk or Islamic bonds to fund some of Asia's infrastructure needs. And this is according to the Monetary Authority of Singapore official who said this yesterday.
So the Deputy Managing Director Jacqueline Low said that in a speech at the World Islamic Banking Conference Asia Summit in Singapore, that such a move would tap a growing pool of Islamic investors across the Middle East and Southeast Asia. And also that the ASEAN Development Bank has been working with the IDB to provide Islamic infrastructure financing solution to member countries. And I think in a way that it is moving forward, especially Singapore itself is developing many instruments and mechanisms to attract more investors, businessmen, even tourists from the Middle East to Singapore, and this is one of the moves if you are looking at it.
And this also includes developing and participating in innovative finance structures. And it seems that when IDB and AIIB come together, they are going to look at improving how the finances work and coming up with something new, a new improved structure of finance for both parties.
So that's quite a complicated topic for us to explain even further. I'll take one short music break. When we return, we'll go to our favorite segment of today, which is the Socio-cultural segment.
ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hey, we are back again. This is Arlene.
Hi, this is Gowri.
And yeah, with us on our ASEAN Daily, now we are bringing you social-cultural news from Southeast Asia. Of course, first off will be about the SEA Games, which is happening right now. Malaysia is getting football lesson in the SEA Games.
That's a very sarcastic headline. Well, meaning to say that we actually lost to Vietnam 5-1 in a Group B match on Tuesday night, which is our second biggest defeat in SEA Games history.
See, I tell you, tigers are getting extinct nowadays.
But then again, this is our under 23 side. But yeah, still, they could be a lot more fierce and aggressive on the pitch.
And in the forest.
So this is actually our second worst loss in history. The last one happened in 1999 when I was like 9 years old, where we lost 6-0 to Indonesia when it was hosted by Brunei. And it seems that our coach for the under-23 team, Dato' Ong Kim Sui, his back is now against the wall and he has some serious work to do with our football team.
A lot of people might not know, but Ong Kim Sui used to be a national player that people look up to. So, pretty sad.
It is. I mean, for us to lose out to Vietnam, especially in the group stage, I think it is quite embarrassing. Especially, we were also beaten by Timor-Leste 1-0 in the opening game last Saturday.
What is it happening right now, Gowri?
Seems like football is such a difficult thing for us to do, which
Such
is
a difficult
funny
thing.
because Malaysians watch football a lot and they're such big fans.
That's true. But enough about SEA Games. I know right now Singapore is leading on the medals, the total medals gained. Where's Malaysia?
Malaysia is actually in 4th place. We have a total of 3 medals so far. And you said earlier that Singapore is in the 1st place. They have a total
11.
of 11 medals. 5 of it is gold, followed by Vietnam, who have 2 gold medals, and Thailand, who have a total of 6 medals. So it's 11, 5, 6, 3. And hopefully Malaysia will pick up. But on the brighter side, I think we just won gold for synchronized swimming, so that's something to
Cheer up a bit.
Yeah, to cheer up the gloomy mood. So far we still have no. We do have medals, but only 3, and that's not very promising. And I think if things don't go well, our youth and sports minister will have to answer for this. So yeah, we'll keep updating our listeners as well on how Malaysia is doing in the 28 SEA Games that's happening in Singapore.
Let's go back to football. Gowri, you have something to say about football?
I have something to say. Well, we do have a breaking news actually, which is quite big for the football world, where Real Madrid coach has been fired in a very controversial manner and been replaced with Rafael Benitez, who is not really doesn't really have as good a reputation as the other world-class coaches.
And because of that?
And because of that, we're not sure how Real Madrid is going to do next season. I think that the issue here is that Real Madrid's president is a very rash guy who just likes to fire people. And the recent one will be the Italian coach Carlo Ancelotti, who actually did pretty well, but just because Real Madrid did not win the league and lost out by 2 points, he got fired, and we have a new coach now.
And just a bit of a little update on FIFA.
Yeah, please.
Did you know that Sepp Blatter just announced his decision to step down after historic address yesterday?
Yes, he did step down, and it's I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think it's good that he took accountability for whatever that's happening in FIFA right now. I think a lot of football players themselves have voiced their dissatisfaction on Twitter out forward that FIFA is shit and corrupt and something needs to be done.
Is that the reason
it.
why you never watched the World Cup?
Yes, I really don't like the World Cup.
Anyway, that's all for our news today. Just catch us all at the same time at 8 o'clock in the morning, Malaysia time, on our ASEAN Daily. We'll bring you more news from Southeast Asia. And of course, later on, please listen to our second segment of the day, where we bring you interesting interviews with people from Southeast Asia, and this time will be Felino Palavox, a prominent Filipino architect. At the same time, if you want to listen to us, you can catch us all the time at our website, which is durianasian.com, and on the go you can download the TuneIn app and listen to Durian ASEAN.
And also don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel to get access to all our daily news commentary and interviews. Durian ASEAN.